Let me get your name for the record.
It's Mark Miller.
Tell me where you're from, first of all.
I'm from Portland, Oregon.
Did you want to be an engineer when you grew up?
Actually, I was a welder. And through natural progression, I ended up becoming a QA representative and a welding inspector. So that's how I ended up doing what I'm doing today.
Where did you start? Did you start there?
I started actually in Vancouver, Washington, and I've worked all over the Portland area, building high rises and bridges. And I work for Caltrop now.
For Caltrop?
Yes.
So you're part of the quality assurance team.
I am.
Tell us what your experience has been like here.
My experience here has been memorable. I would say when we first got here and we were stuck on the island, we probably had more things to contend with as far as food and things like that. But since they put in the tunnel and a lot of people now live in Shanghai, I think it's our experience has gone up dramatically from there. I worked on the transition span on that part of the project, and when that shipped out to California, I took a position with another company for a couple of years. And then I was given a phone call and asked if I was interested in coming back to work for Caltrop, a different company of course, and I was given 3 options if I wanted to work in England, Japan, or China. And those considerations, I looked at Japan as being too expensive, and England, they all speak English. I could probably see that again, but the opportunity to come to China was probably once in a lifetime for me, so I took this position.
Had you been to China before?
Never.
Where had you traveled to before?
I've been to Canada and Mexico.
So you had some culture shock when you got here?
Well, I did spend a small amount of time in my life in Vietnam, so I had a little bit of experience with Asian culture.
And that was at war, I assume. You're talking about
correct.
Vietnam.
Yeah.
It's a little bit different when you're here on a job.
It's considerably different since I think part of being in China that I found out it's very safe. It's a very safe country. It's very comforting here. I don't feel uneasy wherever I go, so I feel fairly safe.
You can walk anywhere, do anything?
Correct, yeah, and by yourself for the most part.
Tell us where we are.
We're in the trial assembly area. This is where all the components that are pre-built in the shop come out here, and we trial fit those for eventual assembly in the Oakland Bay area.
And how do you trial fit something? You put it together?
They actually put it together. Portions of it come out here and are welded, and other portions are bolted together, fit up so that everything matches. And then at that point, measurements are taken by us, hand measurements, to make sure everything's in its proper place. It's disassembled like an erector set. It's put on the boat, of which we have one sitting here today, and made for shipment back to the States. This piece was up where you can see the other cross beam, and the 11s, which are on the boat, were attached to this end. Once they moved those off to complete the work they needed to do on them, they moved the 12s down this direction to make room for the 13s, which will come out at a later time.
I think I know the answer, but tell us how they move this stuff.
They move them with, I refer to them as transporters. They're a multi-wheel vehicle. It's all hydraulically run with a computerized system, and they depending on the size of the lift, they can use up to 5 or 6 of them interconnected, and it all sees, and as it hits a low spot, everything is hydraulically balanced.
Wow. They use similar devices, I believe, to move the space shuttle.
Yes, they have. I enjoy living here. I think I miss my children, my grandchildren, and my wife back in the States. She came out for a visit a couple of weeks ago and stayed with me a couple of weeks. But I miss watching my kids and grandkids growing up.
So essentially, you've been gone from home for 2 years, right?
I've been home 3 times in 2 years for at the longest 10 days.
That is tough. And how many kids do you have?
I have 3 of my own, a stepson, and a niece I raised. And out of those 5, I guess that's 5, I lose track, I have 5 grandkids out of those.
And how old are they? The grandkids?
Well, the oldest one's, I think he's 11 now. The youngest is 4.
And those are the grandkids. What about your kids? How old are they?
Oh, my kids are, you're dating me. My oldest daughter's 36.
And have any of them come to visit you in China?
No.
Do they have any interest in doing that?
They all have an interest in doing that.
They want you to pay for it.
They want me to pay for it, correct.
What kind of impact has communism had on your job or your life here?
I don't think for me personally that communism has any impact on me whatsoever. There may be subtle things that I don't see, but as far as my ability to move around pretty much freely, I've not had any problems whatsoever. I think on the most part, I think the Chinese really like having us here. I think we started out as a novelty, and but as they've got to know us, it's turned into more of a friendship and helping with them. So
have they figured out our quirky sense of humor?
Well, they have their moments. We get a lot of these things, so a lot of times there's a lost communication in the translation. You'll see that a lot if you go to a lot of restaurants that cater more to Chinese than expats, because they'll try to do an American saying, but it doesn't quite come across what you're going to eat. But I can tell you, when we first made a few traditional wisecrack jokes from the States, they didn't understand a bit. But we get laughs out of them now.
And do they make any jokes like that back?
Yeah, too many.
How are you going to feel when your project is wrapped up in July?
I'm going to have mixed feelings about it. I mean, as far as if we're talking about generally the quality of the product here, I won't lose any sleep over what we're sending back to the States.
You're proud of it?
I'm very proud of it. It will be, when it's finished, a great experience. I could never, better than I ever hoped for.